I wanted to have a little bit of a discussion on this great book that I just started reading, which is Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Maxwell Maltz, very quick introduction, surgeon, plastic surgeon, started operating on people's faces, noticed that their personality would change, but he also noticed that some people, they would have no personality change. What was it that was modifying personality and changing behaviors when part of their figure would change? And why some people that would have a figure, maybe their ears changed or their nose changed or some disfigurement corrected, how they would not end up in the long term having any effect on their personality or their self-esteem. And so Maxwell looked into this process a little bit further, and he started to come up with his own concept and his own theory, borrowing from various other experts in the field of psychology and self-reflection. And ultimately what happened is Maxwell discovered that self-image is what ultimately will determine your success or failure in life. We're constantly, the word psycho-cybernetic or cybernetic in general talks about goal seeking. This literally means something that's seeking out a goal. Whether that goal is positive or negative has no bearing on what it does, and that it works extremely well, whether you're successful or not. Success doesn't mean you're financially abundant or you've got all the happiness in the world. Success just means that it's doing exactly what you have intended it to do, whether you're consciously aware of that intention or not. Therein lies the rub. That's a big differentiating factor you've got to consider, is that if you're deliberate on what you feed your mind and what that image is, your self-image or the imagination and your creative mechanism, which is ultimately, say, your subconscious mind and your conscious mind, both work together with your nervous system to bring you any result that you want to achieve. There's many famous examples. He talks about the founder of the Hilton Hotel, how he had to imagine being an operator of a hotel before he could actually even build his successful enterprise. Many people imagine that what they're seeking to achieve before they complete that goal. Shadowboxing, chess champions, golfers, all practice in their mind, even basketball players, that whatever we practice in our mind, there's no difference between a vividly imagined action and actually experience that action in real life. Experience and imagination, there's no distinction to the mind in terms of differences. One's not more effective than the other. They both produce the same results. And so you have an incredible opportunity now to shape the outcomes of your external reality by first practicing in your mind. Practicing also means visualizing what you want to achieve and acting as if. You've heard this before, especially those that follow the law of attraction. When you act as if, that is bringing to you the results that much faster in your outer reality. How do you go about, the question is, the theory is great, but how do you actually practice this? How long do you have to dedicate to it? What level of detail do you need to go into? How frequently should you be doing this? The way that I like to think about it is whatever you're trying to achieve, if you're trying to become wealthy, lose weight, become more influential, increase your income, you've got to start by imagining what it would be like to actually already have everything that you're striving to achieve before it's a reality. Whether you're trying to grow your business or start a business, you've got to get into that mindset of the entrepreneur. If you think that you're going to be worth $10 million in the future, what would a $10 million worth person do? What would they think about? What would they be doing right now? How would they dress? How would they talk? How would they act? Now assume that role and start to take on those activities and those actions that will then situate you and put you into that reality. It's not much more complicated than that. If you're trying to become an artist, for instance, you want to become an expert artist, start to do the things that an artist would do. If you want to become an influencer, let's say on YouTube, one of my goals, If I want to be a 10 million subscriber influencer, I've got to start to act and create content that a person with 10 million subscribers would create. And ultimately, the more that I go about trying to achieve that outcome, the faster it will come to me in my external reality. There is everything that you need now to be successful. When I start to think about losing weight, for instance, and I can think about a great example when I was much younger. I was about 21, 22 years old. I decided to lose a bunch of weight. It was about August, September timeframe, cold, fall semester had just started, and I wanted to drop down 20 or 30 pounds. What I started doing every single morning, besides running and tracking my calories throughout the day and trying to hit at least 1,800 calories per day to 2,000, is I started to think about an end goal. And I had a trip planned in March. That trip and the visualization of what my body would look like at the end, that was the imaging that then I was doing all the actions, no willpower, to get to that point, because I wanted to make that imagery a reality. The stronger and more vivid you can be with your self-imaging, the faster you can get to that reality. That's the bottom line. And the more that you can act as if today you're already that final image, whatever it is, then everything else will change. And your brain will start to find every possible solution to get you there. I think that's one of the hidden gems of this discussion, is that as soon as you decide on what you want, your creative mechanism knows exactly how to get it. You don't have to think about the how. You don't have to break down, just like when you're driving a car, you don't think to lift your arm, move the ignition, turn the steering wheel. You're just automatically doing it because you've got an end goal. Same thing. If you have a goal that you're driving towards, whether it's make more money, lose more weight, increase your influence in this world, then you've got to go about it in a practical, systematic way. Plant the seed, water the garden, watch out for the weeds, defend it, but act as if. That is the key to all success, is acting as if, assuming the thing that you want to be. Here's another example. It's hard to get a job in a new field if you don't have experience in that field. You've got to first imagine what it would be like to have that experience, then start doing the things that someone with experience would be doing. Every job that I've moved into, I first was practicing it for months or even years before assuming that role. And you're not going to gain that experience without first pretending you have the experience. You've got to get really good at pretending until you are the thing that you're pretending to be. Now, you got to be careful here and walk a fine line of ethics. You can't, for instance, a good example here, that medical company, Theranos, that defrauded investors and gave negative results. You don't want to pretend to the point where you're actually disrupting people's lives. Maybe you can do that in a lab setting, but as soon as you get into real impact of people's lives, certain fields are much more methodical and very different to approach. You can't use a creative enterprise on something that's medical related. So number one, careful on the ethics. But number two is start thinking about what are areas of your life that you want to improve, that you want to change, personality-wise. This is a big one. If you feel like you're uncomfortable in a lot of situations, you want to become more outgoing, maybe more well-spoken, start to pretend like you are the person that you're trying to turn into. You can rehearse and role play on your own. Shadowboxing, guys. This is an incredible opportunity. Create these videos for yourself. Maybe pick a niche that you want to get into. Maybe it's finance. Maybe you're investor game. Perhaps you're creative. You want to do music, art, science, poetry. Start to do the things that you want to become good at and keep practicing. And you're going to have to put in the time. Ultimately, you can't get away from hard work. But focus on the end goal. The rest of it will fill in the void. Keep imagining and pretending like you are that. This takes a lot of creative energy. And start wherever you are. Don't fret on the details. I hope that this video gives you a couple of ideas to get started changing your life today.